What is a minority and a majority language? What is a heritage language? This short presentation will start with definitions of minority languages, majority languages, and heritage languages. Then I will discuss some of the differences between monolingual and bilingual language developments and the factors that influence language proficiency. Several examples will be provided to illustrate how these factors can influence the proficiency of a heritage language. A minority language is a language that is being used by a minority of people in a given country, typically much less than 50% of the population. Minority languages can be languages that are being used by immigrant communities, but also regional languages. Majority languages, in contrast, are languages that are being used by the majority of the people in a given country, typically much more than 50% of the population. Majority languages are also often official languages of a respective country, but some countries, like Germany, may not have an official language. German is nevertheless the majority language in Germany. What is a minority and what a majority language is context-specific. For example, Turkish is a majority language in Turkey, but a minority language in Germany. A heritage language is a type of a minority language. In most cases, it's a language spoken by an immigrant group and their children. These children may either be born in the host country, or they may be born in the country of the family's origin and may arrive to the host country in early childhood. For example, children from a family that migrated from Greece to Germany may be either born in Germany or they may be born in Greece and may have migrated to Germany when they were young. Children typically acquire the heritage language in the home, within the family, and the majority language through the environment, the kindergarten, school, society. Therefore, you will find that sometimes the majority language is also mentioned as the societal language. Heritage speakers are native speakers of the heritage language, but their exposure to the heritage language is limited. Heritage speakers are bilinguals. They speak the heritage language and the majority language, but importantly, not all bilinguals are heritage speakers. Many people are bilinguals because they have learned, apart from the native language, another language as a foreign language. Heritage speakers are typically more proficient in the majority language than in the heritage language, at least when they're adults. But this may not be the case when they're very young children. When they are adults, their proficiency in the heritage language is often lower than the proficiency of other native speakers of that language who live in the country of origin, the so-called homeland speakers. However, there is very large individual variation. Heritage speakers may have from very high to very low levels of proficiency in the heritage language. We will now see why that happens and which factors determine their levels of proficiency. Later on, we will see some examples to illustrate how these different factors play out. With these figures, I will illustrate the difference between monolingual language development and language development in heritage speakers. This figure shows a typical progress in monolingual language development. Children are exposed to a language at home and they start developing it. The blue bars illustrate the level of proficiency in the native language over time in preschool, primary and secondary school, and when they are adults. With age, the language proficiency grows over time. The orange bars illustrate their proficiency in a foreign language they start learning in secondary school. This slide illustrates a typical pattern of language development of a heritage and a majority language in an individual who is a heritage speaker in a context of migration, for example, children of an Italian family who has migrated to Germany. If the language spoken in the family is the heritage language, in this case Italian, then at preschool, children usually are more proficient in the heritage language than in the majority language. As soon as children enter school, which is typically in the majority language, they receive more exposure to the majority language than the heritage language. Proficiency to the majority language increases rapidly, and proficiency in the heritage language may stagnate. With increasing schooling, where children have to read and write in the majority language, proficiency in the majority language increases even more, and at the end of the secondary school, children often have the same proficiency level as monolingual children from the host country. In contrast, their proficiency level in the heritage language often drops. What are the factors that determine their level of proficiency in the heritage language? Several factors have been identified that influence the level of proficiency and maintenance in the heritage language. These have been classified as factors that are external or internal to the individual. External factors are factors from the environment. The societal status of the language, for example, if the language has a high or a low prestige in the society. For example, English has a high prestige globally. Speaking English is regarded as an asset. Therefore, people want to be able to speak English. If English is a heritage language, the children will want to learn it because it has a high prestige. If the heritage language is a language with low prestige in contrast, which means that people in the society don't value this language, the children and their families may not want to learn or maintain it because they don't see how they may benefit from it. The second external factor is the institutional support. If the heritage language is being taught and learned in the school, then this can lead to a better proficiency in children. The third external factor is the practicality for communication in everyday life and at work. If people can see the heritage language on a daily basis and can use it within the community and at work, then they are more likely to achieve a higher proficiency. This is linked, of course, to the frequency of use and also the domains of use. If the heritage language is being used in multiple domains, for example, in the home, at school, in the playground, in shops, in the community, then the proficiency will be higher than if it is being used only in one domain, for example, only in the home. Here I have also listed 4 internal factors: emotional attachment, personal interests and motivation, phonological memory, and language aptitude. If children have a positive emotional attachment to the language, for example, through their family, they're more likely to maintain and develop that language. A trauma may have the opposite effect. They may also have a personal interest and motivation to maintain the heritage language. A good phonological memory and a good language aptitude also help children learn and maintain the heritage language. We will now have a look at some examples of children to illustrate how these factors play out in real life. Lucas is 10 years old. He was born in Porto in Portugal, and both his parents are German. Therefore, the language in the home is German. He goes to a German school, so the language in the school is also German. At school, he also has classes for Portuguese and English. But outside of home and school, he speaks German and Portuguese with a group of friends, and Portuguese in a tennis club. His proficiency in the heritage language German is very high because German is a language with high prestige, and Lucas is using it at school and in many other domains. Céline is 9 years old. She was born in Lyon in France, and both her parents are French. The family moved to Sofia in Bulgaria when Céline was 3 years old. The language spoken in the home is French. Céline is attending a bilingual school with 50-50% use of Bulgarian and French. She uses Bulgarian in the neighborhood and French in a drama club. Her proficiency in the heritage language French is very high because French is a language with high prestige, and Céline is using it at school and in many other domains. Anahita is 12 years old. She was born in Mumbai, India, and both her parents are from Iran. She speaks Persian at home and goes to a school that has English as a medium of instruction. She uses Persian in the neighborhood and English and Hindi in her parents' shop. She has medium proficiency in the heritage language Persian because Persian is not being used in school and is being used in a small number of domains. Maya is 8 years old. She was born in Gothenburg in Sweden and has 1 Swedish and 1 Somali parent. She speaks Swedish with 1 parent and Somali with the other one. Schooling is only in Swedish, but she attends a heritage language class once a week for 1 hour. Outside of the home, she only speaks Swedish. Therefore, she has a medium proficiency in Somali. Jack is 11 years old. He was born in Auckland in New Zealand and has 1 parent from New Zealand and 1 from Korea. He speaks English with 1 parent and Korean with the other one. Schooling is only in English, and he uses only English outside of the home. Therefore, his proficiency in Korean is low. Luz is 15 years old. She was born in Lima in Peru, and both her parents are from Peru. The home and school languages are Spanish, as well as the language used in most domains. However, every weekend she meets her grandparents who speak Aymara, and this is the only occasion she's using Aymara. Therefore, her proficiency in Aymara is low. Charles is 13 years old. He was born in Kuwait City. One of his parents comes from South Africa, and the second one is a second-generation Greek who grew up in Ireland speaking Greek and English. The home and school language is English. Outside of home and school, he speaks Arabic and English. Every year, he goes to Greece for 3 weeks, where he is exposed to Greek from the extended family and other people, but he speaks English with his parents. Therefore, his proficiency in Greek is very low. So to summarize, in this presentation, I presented a definition of a minority and a majority language, and also a definition of a heritage language and a heritage speaker. I also discussed the difference between monolingual and bilingual language development and factors that influence the level of proficiency. Finally, I presented some examples to illustrate how the factors influence language development of the heritage language. So if you have children in your class who are heritage speakers of a language, don't assume automatically that they have high or low proficiency in the heritage language or the majority language. This will depend on the language history of each child and the external and internal factors I mentioned earlier. This is why it is important to view each and every child as an individual and assess their language strengths and weaknesses in order to get a better idea of their language skills.